who would have thought the gaming scene needed a hero? Not to fight crime, but to swoop in, fix the dumpster fire of Overwatch 2, and repackage it with beloved Marvel heroes from the time before Disney started to ruin it. Seriously, it's like finding Thor's hammer in a pile of trash. And hey, fingers crossed She-Hulk doesn't crash the party halfway through. We're not emotionally ready for that. Hey guys, it's Neurotalk Gaming here. Now, I know my last video was a bit on pessimistic side, but today we're talking about something that genuinely makes me happy. Yes, some actual positivity in modern gaming industry. Welcome back to the era of peak Marvel, where girls were hot, guys were looking cool, and monetization wasn't villain in itself. So let me just put it out there, I was never a huge fan of Overwatch. Sure, it was popular, but I was too busy laughing my way through Team Fortress 2 to give it much thought. And yeah, I still boot up Team Fortress 2 today because, why fix something that was never broken. But when Marvel Rivals came along, I wasn't sure what to expect. Was it going to be another cash grab, skin fest, or worse, a game that feels like it was designed by a finance department? Thankfully, it was neither. What I got was an absolute blast of fun, wrapped in shiny spandex-clad package. Let's dive into how Marvel Rivals plays, shall we? It's a free-to-play 6-on-6 third-person hero shooter developed by NetEase Games, where you assemble your dream team from a roster of 33 Marvel characters. These heroes are divided into 3 distinct roles. Duelists, the typical damage dealers of the team. These heroes shine in tearing through enemies like it's Black Friday. Examples include Black Panther, Iron Man, and Spider-Man. Some duelists like Spider-Man are more assassin-like, swinging into the enemy team backline to eliminate vulnerable strategists, which are basically healers, before they know what hit them. Others, like Iron Man, are frontline damage dealers, who dish out AoE damage, poking the entire enemy team while staying behind one of the tanks. Another role is called Vanguards, the tanks of the game, built up to soak damage and protect their teammates. Think Captain America, Doctor Strange, and Thor. There are 2 flavors of Vanguards as well. First one is Team Protectors, like Doctor Strange, who conjures up a magical barrier that blocks enemy projectiles, while letting your team attacks pass through. Others are Disruptors, like Captain America, who jumps right into the chaos, tossing shield like a frisbee on a mission. The last one are Strategists, the team support crew, providing healing and utility, while being squishy enough to remind you why they stay in the backline. Loki and Rocket are standout examples. In them, there is also 2 categories. Some strategists focus purely on support, like Loki, who excels at misdirection and control. Others can double up as backup duelists or assassin hunters like Rocket Raccoon, who is small, angry, and surprisingly deadly. Additionally, each hero has unique playstyle and abilities that set them apart even within their own roles. For instance, while Punisher is a damage dealer, he thrives only in defensive setups with his turrets and high damage output. But he has a very low mobility, so he usually needs to stay behind the tank. Meanwhile, Venom is all about offense, tanking hits like he's auditioning for a demolition team while his team picks off distracted foes. The game currently offers 2 game modes in standard quick play, and 1 more separate game mode. 2 game modes that are available in both quick play and competitive formats are Convoy, where similar to Team Fortress 2 or probably Overwatch, one team pushes a certain item towards the enemy base, while other team tries to stop them. And Convergence. It is the usual king of the hill type of objective, where teams are tasked with capturing and holding a certain point on the map. The only thing that is different compared to some other games, it has only 1 control point, which makes for a less strategic gameplay. As I mentioned previously, it also has 1 more separate mode called Conquest, which is just a regular deathmatch, where you accumulate points by killing the enemy team. The one thing that is very special about Marvel Rivals exactly is a hero synergy system. This is truly where magic happens for this game. This system grants unique team-up bonuses or special abilities when compatible heroes have played together. For example, pairing Rocket and Groot, Groot gets some bonus HP, and Rocket can ride Groot into the battle, using him as a moving shield while unleashing a barrage of attacks or healing everyone around him. Or another team-up that you can have is Thor and Captain America. Thor gets a passive HP buff, and Captain America gains a lightning charge, shocking enemies with each strike. However, synergy system isn't all sunshine and superpowers. Sometimes you'll find yourself forced into suboptimal team compositions. For instance, Black Widow and Hawkeye are 2 amazing snipers and they get a nice team buff, but let's be honest, most teams don't need 2 sharpshooters sitting in the back arguing over who spotted the enemy first. The graphics in Marvel Rivals are exactly what you'd expect from a game like this. Polished, vibrant, and undeniably Marvel. Visually it's reminiscent of Overwatch, but with an added comic book flair, that really brings the characters and environments to life. Think bold colors, exaggerated designs, and the kind of style that screams this is superhero world. One thing that stands out is how unapologetically true to classic character design the game is. While many modern games shy away from certain bold aesthetic choices, you know, the ones that spark endless debates online, Marvel Rivals dives right in. To borrow a phrase from a completely different games review, it's a triumphant return to form for fans of unapologetic, stylish, character-driven games. When it comes to technical side of the game, there are a few things worth noting. Some players have reporting stuttering, crashes, and other hiccups, and from what I've gathered, a lot of those issues seem to be tied to certain processors. As you probably heard, there are issues with newer Intel processors, and Unreal Engine has a knack of making it worse. My advice? Update your BIOS before diving in, or you might find yourself holding a fried CPU instead of gaming trophy. Beyond the processor issues, the game does demand a fair bit of system resources, and the optimization could definitely use some love. For the visuals you're getting, it feels like it's asking a bit too much from your hardware. That said, I personally haven't experienced any major technical hurdles, and I'm optimistic the developers will fine-tune things as updates roll out. As for the game's balance, well, that's where it gets tricky. I can see why some players are raising concerns. Certain heroes are undeniably easier and more effective than others, which leads to a noticeable trend. You'll often see the same handful of characters dominating the roster, while others are left on metaphorical bench. To some extent, yes, the balance could use some work. It's especially frustrating when certain picks feel like must-haves in most matches. That said, the game isn't unplayable by any stretch. Even the stronger heroes have counters if you play smart. For instance, fast-moving characters like Spider-Man or Black Panther can often run circles around opponents, until they run into Scarlet Witch, who doesn't need precise aim to ruin their day. Her abilities make her a great counter against speedsters, proving that with the right picks, even the seemingly unstoppable can be stopped. Balance issues aside, the game's mechanics allow for some satisfying counterplay and creativity in your team compositions. Looking at the float of free-to-play releases this year, I'll admit, I went into Marvel Rivals with pretty low expectations. Let's be real, the bar for quality in this genre has been all over the place. But honestly, the game has surprised me in a good way. It's clear that developers aim to create something truly enjoyable. And while there are definitely areas where they could have done better, it doesn't feel like their decisions were driven by predatory monetization practices or political agendas, which is already a plus in my book. Speaking of monetization, Rivals is refreshingly fair compared to many of its peers. The current Battle Pass costs only about €5, and it's packed with value with 5 skins and host of other cosmetics. Separate skins are pricier, ranging upwards of €20, which, let's be honest, is enough to buy a decent indie game, but hey, developers have to eat too, and for a game of this size and polish, it probably is a reasonable trade-off. Okay guys, thank you all for tuning in. This is Neurotalk Gaming signing off. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and do all the usual YouTube jazz. And hey, I'll see you again soon, still this year. Cheers!